Hello and welcome everyone to the very first episode of Decoding the Code. My name is Marc and I'm going to explain to you very quickly what all of this is about. So every week on Monday we are going to have a new episode where together with one of many fantastic speakers we are going to discover coding myth, explore tips and tricks for beginners and experts alike, and get a look behind the digital curtains.
Welcome to Decoding the Code, the YouTube show for developers. Get ready for your host, Marc Backes.
This week, I'm happy to welcome Sarah Shook as our guest speaker. She's a stay-at-home mom to 3 kids, and when she's not chasing after them, she's learning how to code, which she's been doing for 5 years. For that, she has my deepest respects, because I imagine it comes with a whole bunch of challenges. And today we are going to explore how she does it.
Hi, Marc. I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, great. It's my pleasure. Tell me, how old are you kids?
Sure. So I have 3 kids, like you said. I have a 6-year-old, and she's currently homeschooling. And then I have a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old.
Wow. Okay. That sounds like a busy day in itself without doing other things. So can you tell me what a typical day looks for you? Like, I can't even imagine how I would get stuff done with all of that stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, typical days vary from day to day, just depending on what's going on, especially with the 2 younger children, the 3-year-old and the 18-month-old. They keep my hands full and things change every day with them. But a typical weekday for me looks like waking up and getting my kids breakfast and everything, typical parenting stuff. But then also getting my daughter, we homeschool her, but she has virtual classes. So making sure she's attending those. And then after she's done, it's normally a lunch break and then finishing her homework. So between that, it's usually between like 9 a.m. my time to 3 or 4 p.m. when all is said and done. And during those times, I typically don't have any time to code because the kids are all up and running around except for the 6-year-old who's doing schoolwork. Okay, wow,
that is a busy day. And I would think, or people would think, or I would say it's a myth that, stay-at-home parents must have a lot of time to learn new things. And would you help me debunk this myth?
Sure.
Because I like what you're telling me is like that's absolutely not the case. So what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, when you have, of course, if you're a parent, you might only have 1 kid, or you may have kids that are older. So I think mostly for me and who I relate to would be parents with multiple children that are younger, that are, maybe 3rd grade and below, where they still are not they're still dependent on you to get things done. So you with 3 small kids, you have to make their food, you have to do the laundry, which with 3 kids, there's a ton of laundry. You do the dishes. So there's just a ton of chores. Like, I mean, it's literally working and standing on your feet, making sure they're having fun and they're entertained, but also getting everything done so that the house is not a mess. And for me personally, I need a clean space in order to focus later. And, if things are cluttered, it makes me anxious. So I have to make sure too that I have a neat space so that whenever I do get the chance to open my computer and study for a little bit, I'm not doing it in a mess, because that just personally distracts me.
Okay. So definitely not that easy as it looks from the outside. But there's another myth, or I would say it's a myth. Waking, like, why don't you just wake up earlier and like get more stuff done is another thing.
I think for some people that can work depending on their kids and their schedules. My 18-month-old does not have a set. I mean, we put him to bed at a certain time, but he still wakes up regularly throughout the night. And for example, the other morning I woke up at 6:30 a.m. thinking I'd get a couple hours into code, and he woke up as well. So it just depends on, I mean, if you do have kids that have that set schedule and they're sleeping through the night, I think that's definitely possible. But when you don't, some children are all different. So like my son, he likes to be near me, and if I'm up, he wants to be up. So I don't really have the opportunity to wake up earlier usually. Sometimes I can, but it's not something that I can plan on every single day because he will get up as well.
Okay. Wow. So one question I also wanted to ask you is, well, first, how many hours a day are you like up, and how many of those hours do you get to focus on learning something new?
That's a good question, and it also depends day by day. I can usually get 15 to 30 minutes in somewhere in between the day. And sometimes I can get a couple of hours. I am married, so if I'm studying and I have a due date on something that I need to do for a project, I can reach out to my husband and say, hey, I need to set away, 2 hours tomorrow and 2 hours the next day to focus. And he'll support me. But he also works full time, and he usually works 50 hours a week. So, and it's a laborious job. So really, I do take on most of the child rearing while he's working. So I would say on average, 15 to 30 minutes a day. But some days I don't even get the chance to open the computer. It depends. It's one of those things. I know. It just depends on the day.
Wow. Quick bracket. What are you learning at the moment? What are you looking at?
Yeah, so I am currently attending a boot camp. So we discussed that I was self-taught. I have been coding for 5 years, but I didn't ever have a structured learning environment. Of course, Google and Stack Overflow and YouTube tutorials, those are all great, but there's just so many different concepts that you can learn, and you can easily veer off what you're trying to focus on when you find something else and kind of go down a different direction. So I ended up winning a boot camp on Twitter, and I've been doing that, and it takes you all the way from basic HTML, CSS up through a full back-end, front-end application is what we'll end up building. And right now we're working on ES6 classes, and I'm working on loose coupling of classes right now.
Wow, that's really cool. And that bootcamp, is it? How is it called? The bootcamp?
It's called Why Practice 'Em by Yandex, and it's a 10-month program, so it's a bit longer than a lot of the other boot camps that are offered out there.
Okay, and how is it with the times? Is self-paced, but to which point?
Yeah, so it's self-paced in the fact that you have deadlines, but you can work at your own pace as long as you're meeting those deadlines. And there are soft deadlines and hard deadlines. So if you're still behind on the soft deadline, you can still work to catch up as long as you meet that final hard deadline. And there are webinars, there's live coding classes, they do pair programming, but at the same time, you don't have to do those. You can always watch the recordings. So it's been really great because if I'm up at 1 a.m. and I'm able to, do some coding or work on projects, I can do that and go back and watch content that's already been provided. I don't have to worry about meeting everybody live a certain time a week. Even scheduling our call today, we planned it really far in advance. I have the kids in the very back of the house. So doing that kind of stuff on a regular basis is really hard, but I also want to be able to talk to people. So I have to prioritize and schedule things, occasionally instead of doing it multiple times a week. And the boot camp allows me to do that.
Okay, great. So I will put a link of that bootcamp in the show notes if other people are interested, and you can definitely check it out. It sounds like a great place to learn new things. It's
really great, and they actually do code reviews, which is something that I'd never had before. And cool. I really appreciate that because it shows, they give you notes, they tell you what they want, and they are looking for something specific. So if you add something extra in that's a cool feature, they'll tell you to take it out because that's not for the project. But you get really great feedback. And then there's support with over Slack and Discord, and people will help you figure out the issues that you're having for your projects.
Oh, wow, cool. All right, back to our original conversation.
Okay.
I imagine like doing all those chores and also learning how to code and the whole household and kids thing. Does it take a mental toll on you? And can you tell us a little bit about that? Yeah,
definitely. So I am very career oriented, and I've kind of I'm doing school, so I want that. That's definitely like my next step as far as getting more knowledgeable about React and JavaScript and things like that, so that my future in the next 6 months or so, I can really, take off and do what I want after the course is over. But before kids, I was very career oriented, and I would regularly work 60 hours a week, and it was fine. And then I had one kid and I was still working full time. And then I had my second kid and I was still working full time. But with 3, it makes it really difficult. And mentally, I think there's like this battle within my head sometimes, because I want to be doing career things, but at the same time, I also want to stay at home with the kids. I have that opportunity to do so. And so there's always a battle of, am I being a good enough parent, or am I focusing on my career enough? And it's trying to find that balance between both of those things, because I do want to be successful in my career. And I have just kind of taken a step back to be more successful as a mom. When I was working full time and taking care of the kids, I would sometimes get more angry easily, because I was trying to focus on something at work and not giving them enough attention. So it wasn't good for any of us. And so that's when I decided to take a step back. And I still do have a part-time position that's project-based, but I really just focus on the kids at this point. And then boot camp is my second priority right now.
Okay. And do you have some methods, like how do you manage to set a focus? Do you have like a procedure? Do you have some tricks or tips even you could give other people to better focus on one thing and be able to do what you have to do?
I mean, that's still a challenge for me personally. I can get very distracted easily. So I think my biggest thing that I do is I close out Twitter in my browser window when I'm trying to focus on something. And then I also take my phone and put it in the other room, because I'll try to be multitasking and opening up Twitter while I'm also trying to study. So really just removing those distractions. And then if you have a support if you have kids and you have a support where they can be watched by somebody while you're focusing, that's really helpful too. So just making sure that everything that when you have that amount of time that you can focus, that you're removing all the distractions so that you can sit there and actually be as productive as possible, even if you only have a short amount of time.
Oh, okay. And I imagine it's not that easy to explain to your family that you need time to do something. How do you manage to set boundaries with your family, with your kids, especially your kids, that now you need some time to do something or to work or to learn things? How do you manage that?
You're asking really good questions. That is also a challenge. And I think for me personally, it's telling my spouse, hey, I need this time to sit and focus. And I try to make sure that I am also not asking for that every single day, because then that gets overwhelming too on his end, since he's been working most of the day. And then with kids, my 3-year-old likes to come in and try to distract me. So it's just a matter of taking her out. And sometimes if they need to watch a show so I can get stuff done, then I'll put them in front of the TV and let them, watch a movie. And then usually that helps. But you're right. Boundaries are really challenging to kind of set, especially when you have little people that don't understand boundaries.
Yeah. That's what I was wondering, because it's even as adults, it's hard sometimes to explain, listen, I need an hour for myself. And I had a coworker who lived still with his parents, and he had the hardest time to explain to his parents that he was actually working and not like just playing around on the computer. And they would interrupt him all the time. And until he sat down with them, look, this is what I do. I write code, and this is how it works, and I'm not playing around.
Yeah,
so,
and I think too, to add to that, with writing code, sometimes you're debugging or you're trying to figure out this problem, so you're just pretty much like staring at the screen or staring at Google, and you don't necessarily look like you're being productive, you know?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's kind of harder to really be like, no, I really am being productive. I'm trying to get this to work. Yeah. It's not like we just type and things magically happen all the time. You have to really figure out the issues and how to make something work. So.
Yeah, sometimes I'm just walking around my room, playing with a miniature football, American football ball, like thinking, and it must, from the outside, people from the street can sometimes see me. They must think, oh, that guy has quite a life. He's just like walking around, playing with the ball, not doing anything. Cool. But definitely not the case. So yeah, do you have any advice you would give other stay-at-home parents or single parents who also, I imagine, would also have a hard time managing time and kids and learning and stuff? Which advice would you have for those people?
I think so. One of the things that I take this advice, but I also sometimes have, like I told you earlier, like a mental battle, but is to, if you have small kids and you have the opportunity, obviously a lot of people just have to work because you have to work. But if you have the opportunity to spend more time with them, then I think that that's more important really than anything else, because they're only small for a little bit. And then the other thing would be to find things that you can, if you, especially once they're older, when you get to 4 or 5 and they can do self-play and they don't necessarily need you don't have to worry about them, cutting their fingers off with safety scissors or something, and they can do crafts, set them up with something so that they can focus on something while you're also focusing on something. And then for me personally, I usually code at night when my 18-month-old has been put down for bed, and I know he'll be asleep for a couple of hours. So just trying to find the time when they're napping or when they're sleeping, if you're not too tired too, right? Because sometimes you're too tired anyways, but just trying to find those little pieces of time, even if you don't have a set schedule. But hey, if you can set a schedule and that works for you, I think that's the best way to do it. I just have not been successful in that in my life at this point with the kids.
Okay. One thing I also wanted to talk to you about. So your time for learning things seems very limited. And how do you manage to learn something, or how would you go about to learn something as vast as JavaScript or React? Because you think it's more desirable to like become a specialist in something, or might it be better just to be good at some things, but not really specialist in something?
I personally think you should specialize. Like I said earlier, I've been coding for 5 years, and I actually have experience in 5 or 6 different languages, but I'm not, so like I love SQL. I can run those complex queries, but I haven't had the opportunity to do stored procedures yet, which I know I could figure out, but like that's just been something that I haven't been able to do with my job. So I can do the queries, I can do some JavaScript, but like when I've solved problems in the past, it was like solving a little piece of the puzzle and not really necessarily grasping the concept of why. Like I know what recursion is, I know what something's coupling, for example, that's something that I'm learning now that I'd never known that was a thing. And when I go in and I look at somebody else's code that's way more complex than what I'm used to, now I can understand why it's like that, whereas I couldn't before. So I think that like, and then on top of that, I also worked with PowerShell. And so like, I just had all these different languages and I was learning them within a short period of time and having to switch between each one. And sometimes when you switch languages, you really have to kind of switch gears to that other language and that other syntax. And when you focus and you learn one thing and you just nail it down and you become proficient, then I feel like that's the best time to start learning something else. But work on that one skill first if you have the opportunity, because honestly, I think I would be a much stronger programmer these days if I had been able to do that as well. But I was doing it for work and I didn't have that opportunity. But I think for those who are learning coding, I think you should focus, and then once you're confident in your skills in that one area, then move on to something else.
Yes, definitely. I just want to add quickly here to if some beginners are watching or listening to this, that it's not desirable to know 100% of something. For example, like know 100% of JavaScript, because nobody knows 100% of JavaScript. I think what Sarah is saying is, like, as she said, being proficient in something that you can do a lot of stuff without looking too much stuff up. Or of course you look stuff up all the time, but like, it's not desirable to know everything and 100% of something, because you won't need it. You can look stuff up, like, which is something I try to tell people, to not be like focused on or obsessed with like knowing every syntax or every class or every function. So
as long as you know like how to figure out the problem easily, that's really, I feel like, when you're pretty proficient. You can understand what you're reading when it comes to the different methods, the basic methods that JavaScript includes, and then you say, oh, okay, so I need to figure this out. You still research it, but you know the questions to ask to make the answer easier for you to find.
Yeah, it's like the array reduce. Like, I have to Google it every time. Is it first the accumulator or second? And then I have to Google it, and oh, damn it, I got it wrong again. How can I get it wrong so many times? And I've been doing JavaScript for quite a while. And then I wanted to talk with you about something maybe a little bit more touchy subject.
Sure.
Do you feel discriminated against, or do you feel that our field, technology, discriminates against stay-at-home moms or moms in general?
I think, I'm on Twitter, and I found a lot of amazing women that support me, and we support each other. And joining Twitter has been amazing, because I've been able to meet people that are in similar situations, even if it's not a mom, but she's just a strong woman, and that we can all support each other. I have had some occurrences where somebody who's not a parent basically says that I could find more time. And I think that that's true to an extent, but at what cost? What am I giving up to find that more time? And I think that if you are not a parent, and the people who made these comments they obviously weren't, you don't understand, because you don't realize how much work goes into even just having one kid is a lot. But when you start having more, and they're all young, that's the other key word. They're not teenagers yet. They need you to support them. They need you to do things for them. I do sometimes feel that people don't understand that, but maybe one day they will, and they'll think back on those comments that they made to people that were parents at the time, and they'll realize that they shouldn't have said that.
Okay, one always grows with that. Okay, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. Is there something you wanted to talk about more about your experience? Something you wanted to an anecdote maybe, or something?
Not necessarily, but I will say that, if somebody, even if you are just starting out or you haven't started out coding and you're looking to do that and you have a really busy schedule, it's still possible. It's like you're learning a new language. It's just not a spoken language. It's a coded language. So you're not going to learn everything in one day, as much as some people try to hype up that you'll learn JavaScript in a week or something from watching a video. It takes a lot of time. And even if you've coded I know, Mark, you've coded for longer than I have, and you say you're still learning too. So it's basically a lifelong journey. And if it's something that you think you're passionate about, you should just try. And even if you can only spend 5 to 10 minutes a day, that's better, because you're still building up your mental capacity for coding. And the next time that you look at something, you'll understand it, even if it's just a little bit better. And then the one other thing is when my son was a newborn, and when my daughter was 10 months old and before he was born, there's an app called Execute Program, and it's $20 a month, but it teaches you a lot of the JavaScript fundamentals. It goes over all the different array methods, and it gives you exercises. It goes over promises, and they've probably added, I haven't been on it in a little bit, but they have different courses that you can take for $20 a month. And the way that it's structured is you can only do so many sections in a day, and then they keep repeating those quizzes over time. And as it solidifies in your brain, then they'll move on to something else. It's a really neat program. And especially if you have like a baby sleeping on you, you can do it on your cell phone. So I would do that when I wasn't able to be at the computer. And that really helped me with things like arrays and promises and things that I hadn't really touched as much in my previous experience. So yeah, I loved Execute Program. Sorry if I'm not allowed to plug something, but it really is a great program, especially if you're not able to be at a computer, but you want to like test yourself on your skills.
Yeah, definitely allowed to plug things. I will put it also in the show notes, a link to the app recommendation of Sarah. And one last thing, what are you up to next? Are there any new projects are there any new projects coming up for you?
Yeah, I am a board member for a small nonprofit organization. And so I'm actually going to be redoing their website. I'm currently working on the design portion of it. And we're in the process of finalizing their logo. And so once that's done, I will be managing their Twitter account as well as building their website for them. So it'll be a fun project to work on, and it'll be for a really great cause. So I'll tweet about that whenever it's finished, but I'm excited, and that's my next big project along with finishing boot camp.
Okay, great. Well, good luck with that project. And thanks again for joining me, or for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the show. I really appreciate your time. And yes, I will also Sarah's Twitter account her Twitter handle is Shook Codes, SHOOK Codes on Twitter. If you want to follow her, I will also put the link in the show notes. Follow Sarah; she's amazing. And thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's been so great talking with you.
Thank you for watching. If you like this video, there are going to be many more. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I really hope to see you next week.